Yo, what are you doing right now? We are going to get real about men's issues, who Jesus is, and who we are as men in Christ. We're going to hear Trey, Jeremy, Michael, and Brad break it down. These guys call themselves the Cussin Christians. All right, guys, what is going on?
In the wedding bed. It says in the wedding bed.
We rolling now?
We're rolling now.
All right.
Hey.
Trying to figure out where we're going to start this.
Monday morning, Melbourne, Florida.
Michelle comes up to me this weekend and says she wants to go to dinner at one of those places where they, fix your meal in front of you. So I took her to Subway, and then the fight began.
There you go.
Nice.
We can use that one.
There you go.
Ba-dum-bump.
Oh, boy.
I have a confession to make. I'm not a very good listener sometimes. Like if somebody starts rambling and they start talking too long, my mind will just wander. Or if I hear something they say that I think is kind of funny, I'll go off on a rabbit trail for like 20, 30 seconds. And then I'll come back there. Oh, yeah. And then try to come back in. So I was talking to this dude at church a few months ago, and we've all heard of Celebrate Recovery, that ministry.
Yeah, fantastic.
Deals with all kinds of addiction, great ministry. So I'm talking to this guy, and he mentions that he's been, involved with Celebrate Recovery. And my mind goes, Celibate Recovery? I remember when I went in the Celibate Recovery when I got married. It's like, thank God that he delivered me from a life of celibacy. That was a rough patch. Those first 19 years were bad. And so this is what I'm thinking while this guy's talking. I'm just going, oh,
you didn't say
You're
it out
making
loud.
up jokes.
no, this is like my mind just went off, and I'm like, well, now I want to celebrate Celibate Recovery. We should have meetings and
Celebrate Celibate Recovery.
Yeah. There you
go.
Yeah, that should be a support group.
Yeah, right. So it would be a very short meeting, though. Be like, congratulations. Now go home to your spouse. And
Yeah.
Celebrate Recovery.
Oh, that's
So yeah, I'm gone for like 20, 30 seconds, and I'm like, oh wait, what? Come back and try to act like I was there the whole
listening.
Yeah, you the man. Oh.
time. It gets me in trouble sometimes.
All right. Well,
And he's the good one in the group.
I know. He didn't tell the joke I just told.
yeah, y'all don't know what happens before we turn on the microphones. It's always a chuckle.
That's a subscription material. You got to subscribe to get that.
That's right.
Monday
on the bloopers.
Monday morning, coming off the weekend.
That's our spicy content.
Guess what? Mother's Day's here.
Oh yeah.
Oh man, what are we
it's
gonna
this weekend,
do?
right?
What are we gonna do?
Don't go to Red Lobster.
No.
No?
Is it packed?
It'll be packed, and there'll be
Everything's packed.
yeah.
What do you guys think about those holidays?
Why don't you take her to like Western Sizzler or something like that? That would be romantic.
Yeah,
Where's what-
my wife would
what-
love
Do we
that.
have one around
Western
here?
Sizzling. I don't know if we do or
That's
not.
a Texas.
Golden Corral.
Yeah, Golden Corral. That's a perfect Mother's Day getaway.
Yeah.
Get you some fried chicken.
He'll do that.
Yeah.
I used to love some Golden Corral back
Me
in the
too,
day.
man. I could pony up. Just
Oh, yeah.
pile it high.
Before we knew
great.
better.
Yeah.
The chocolate.
The chocolate Wonderfall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm laughing because I'm just remembering the last time Ashley and I actually went to a Golden Corral, which was probably 15 years ago. I mean, and this kid, he got his own ice cream, and that's, you let kids do what they want to do there. He has this huge ice cream thing, and he takes this thing of jelly beans and goes to pour it over the top. Not one jelly bean.
Beans landed.
It all went on the floor.
It just went everywhere.
Nice.
And I watched the whole thing unravel. It was great.
The thought processes of our young ones. Yeah. Well, we had the National Day of Prayer was last week, which was a really cool experience. There was a couple of great experiences that day, and then we had the ribbon cutting at Helen's house.
Yeah, man.
Nice.
The Cedar Rescue Mission, with been around 50 years, been housing men and helping them get back into society. You know that nearly every day there's a woman that comes knocking on the men's rescue door that needs help and assistance, right? And so the team, after years of prayer and years of fundraising, we broke ground about a year ago, and then this past week we had Sheriff Ivey here and a lot of the civic leaders of Brevard County come to cut the ribbon and officially open up Helen's house, and it's a house for homeless women and their kids. That is something that blows my mind. The number of homeless women in our county that actually have children with them.
That's rough.
Leslie sent a picture.
Yeah,
on the
that was-
other side. That just broke my heart.
I know. We had a service day through our church and they went over to the side of Helen's house, and there was some graffiti on the fence. And so there was a team cleaning that up, repainting and everything else. And there was one picture taken of one of the volunteers scrubbing down that fence. And if you look past the fence into the woods behind, there is a woman there. And she's got, in the tree, she's got clothes that are hanging in the branches. Mm-hmm. And when I first saw it took my breath away. And I can just imagine her walking to this other side of the fence and having a place to sleep.
For freedom. She's a fence away from freedom.
She's a fence away from freedom.
But Leslie went and talked to her.
Yep. I didn't get all the specifics out of that yet, but I can't wait to get the
comment was she's 34 years old, gave her name, and it said she's not ready.
She's not ready to walk away.
Yeah.
And that happens a lot, with the homeless.
25 feet from freedom, and she's not ready.
That's crazy, man.
Hats off to the Rescue Mission. We're so involved with them every week with the mentoring group that we put together to help those men. And we're going to be helping through resources and service and prayer to get the Helen's House project moving forward with Phase 2 and Phase 3. But now we're coming off the weekend. What is happening? You were driving, and we had a great chat last week, but there was something that you had a light bulb go off you wanted to think about.
So after, every week after we record the podcast, I'm driving home and I'm like, man, I should have said this. I should have said that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And there was something that we talked about last week about church and how church is a business. And this isn't really to, come against that or disprove that or anything. It was just a point that I thought of later. I'm involved with the worship team. And so there is performance involved in our worship, but our worship, it's not performance. You know what I mean? There are elements of it. So when I started playing guitar, I played for like 2 years in my bedroom. Never did, I'm not one of these guys who loves being on stage. I'm comfortable being in the background, but for a number of years, I found myself either leading or playing on the front line or whatever. And I would stare at my guitar for like 10 years. I would just stare at my guitar and just do this. And people even asked me, are you scared when you're up there? Like I would get weird comments and stuff.
Yeah.
So over the years, I've kind of trained myself to look up, don't stare at the guitar, look up, smile, kind of engage with the audience until that became a natural thing. Some of all of our singers are excellent at that. They're just, a lot of them are naturals. But for me, it was almost like that's an element of performance that I had to train myself to do so that I could engage and be a better worship leader. So with church, as far as church being a business, our church started in somebody's living room with 20 or 30 people.
Right.
And it was very small for a number of years. And then it was in a little strip mall storefront for years. At that time, it was, nobody went into that going, this is going to be an awesome business, guys.
No.
It was a ministry. And so, of course, as it grows bigger, at some point, there are elements of business that you need to, that you need to do to make it run and make it successful.
Right.
Keep the lights on.
Right.
Right.
And so I don't know. And I still think that I think as much as they can, our church does a good job of keeping, the ministry goals, the primary thing.
Right.
But yeah, you have to have a certain amount of money to do that kind of stuff.
Right.
But I just think that a lot of people think that all big churches, that they're just all businesses and that's all they're about.
No.
They're about making money and stuff. And maybe some crossover into that.
Yeah. Don't you think sometimes that they lose their focus? All right, they start off, and then they get so stinking big that it becomes all about the dollars.
Yeah.
And they lose that focus of why are we here to begin with?
It costs money to do what we do as a we're technically a para ministry. And I don't get a lot of complaints about the events we set up. But there's a few that say, why are you even charging for this? Right. And
because it's not free.
It ain't free. And,
is there anything free?
Now there's a few that have a $2 million angel donor that'll come in and there's one amazing touring group that's hitting some college campuses now and it's a different focus than what we do, but they have aligned the right people to fund it and bring in a major act and a couple of amazing speakers and fill up a basketball arena. But it's all focused right at the students and nobody else. Come on in, click, just register and show up. I would love to do that. Bring me that angel donor
Right.
of a couple $1,000,000. I'll set those up all day long. But in the meantime, I got to work through the planning and work through with the team. Just trying to raise the funds to help offset costs and then the ticket sales. And if we break even, that's great. If we don't, then I do a big gulp. And the first event that we did, we didn't break even. And but ever since then we have, and this Tebow event, we're gonna be able to donate back to Helen's House and help our operating fund a little bit out of it. But the focus is the message. If I break even, it's gravy. But there's so many that don't. I reached out. On social media, we all follow our guys, right? Mm-hmm. And there's a guy that I follow, and I thought, man, he's pretty dynamic. He'd be a great speaker, and he's got a huge following. He's one of those influencers, right? And I reached out on Instagram, and I said, hey, got this men's function later in the fall. Would love to talk to you about our ministry, what we're trying to do, how we're trying to reach men, and maybe make you be a part of it. And this guy played in the NFL, won Super Bowls, and I got a note back directly from him. You could tell it wasn't a handler, and the note was the words that came out: "What's your budget?" And it wasn't, "Tell me about your ministry more. Tell me about what you're trying to do." But his first words out of his mouth were, "What's your budget?"
Yeah.
And I just didn't even respond. I went, if that's the first words out of your mouth, and I get it. He's trying to make a living, and we're going to get to that, but we need to have this conversation first, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
That would do it.
Yep.
And so that's where I'm going, all right, what you got a gazillion followers, what's your budget? All right, so what's your purpose here? And so
Yeah, I
talk
think
to
it's got to be ministry first, because again, our church wouldn't be where it is today if they were not focused on ministry. If they had 30 people in a living room and said, this is going to be a business with a business that talks about Jesus or whatever, I don't think they ever would have made it through a lot of those times.
Yeah, it is a business. Unfortunately, you got to pay the electric, a huge AC bill, I'm sure, here in Florida every summer.
Yeah.
And I think that's one thing our church does well, though, is even with the budget, like, it's very open. I mean, the whole congregation sees what's budgeted.
Right.
It's not a secret, right? It's like, this goes to this goes to that, and, like, you can see where the zeros come out.
That's accountability.
Yeah, and I think that's great that they do that. I do think, though, that some of the churches, to your point just a second ago, is that they lose their way, and it's easy, right? I mean, all of a sudden, just like any business, you start out with a mission, the next thing you know, you've blown up.
Sure.
And then that's a great way for Satan to get in and ruin a church, is over money. I mean, it happens. I mean, I saw some Joel Osteen stuff over the weekend, and where he won't call sin.
Yeah,
and he's like, no, I don't want to call people out. I don't need to make them feel bad. It's like, well, but what are we doing here, Joel? Like, do you not want them to know that that's not okay?
That's, yeah.
Or sin is what separates you from God, from the Father. So nothing separates you then? You don't call it out?
That's what he said.
You got to know that, so you'll understand the need for Jesus. And that's what the law was set up to do, to get your attention and go, man, I can't do this on my own. At our service yesterday, we're going through Romans 3, and it's so black and white of James says it. You got to fulfill yourself every law of all 600 and something to be perfect and righteous. If you miss one, you miss them all.
Yeah.
You go sacrifice at the temple and come back but Jesus is that way, and it's through the law and understanding the sin and the depravity we're born into. It should be able to be discussed on a pulpit, without and just saying, look, guys, I'm there too.
Yep.
I ain't pointing fingers at you, like they said with the old. When I'm pointing, that's 3 fingers pointing back at me, right? That's what our pastor said, and it holds a lot of truth. And when someone has that revelation of, whoa, that's when life changes.
Well, and unfortunately, there's a lot of pastors out there that won't admit they're flawed.
Yeah.
I mean, you watch them from the pulpit; they're not talking about their sin.
No.
I mean, and I saw ours last week. I mean, he tells the story, and he's like, "Yeah, guess who that other guy was? That was me."
That was me.
and
all of a sudden I can connect with him.
Yep.
yeah. I mean,
You know, he brought up Romans 3:9-10, for we have already charged that all, both Jews and Greeks, are under sin, as it is written. None is righteous, no, not one.
Yep.
Right. No, none of us are. We're not born into this world righteous in any shape or form.
But what I loved about the whole message yesterday was when he brought it back. You know, he started talking about the 10 Commandments. Oh,
I was going, here we go.
Here we go.
But he did it.
He did it.
He
man.
brought it, man. He brought the
Yeah.
grace message right into the 10 Commandments and just said, okay, the 10 Commandments are on steroids, or there's a law of
elevate it,
steroids,
yeah.
you know, to elevate it up. You know, don't commit murder. Well, I gotta tell you what.
No problem there.
Are you pissed at your brother? Guess what?
Don't commit adultery, but
Oh, did you picture her without her dress on? Come on, man. And you can hear everybody go gulp.
how many Christians don't realize that there's another 603 laws?
very few.
Very few. Man, you talk about the 10 Commandments, and you can basically, you know, the one thing yesterday we talked about, you talk about the Sabbath. That's one command, the Sabbath, we don't keep.
Sure.
Because the Sabbath, you know, we rest. Jesus is our Sabbath. We rest in Him.
Mm-hmm.
But according to Jewish law, that day was sundown Friday to sundown Saturday. That is the Sabbath. As far as I know, there's only one Christian organization that identifies that, and that's the Seventh-day Adventists, and that's it. And everyone else, no, I do not practice the Sabbath as far as a actual day of the week.
You know, there's a reason why this is called the Roman road to salvation. I don't know if you guys ever heard
Yeah,
that expression.
it's beautiful. Yep.
Yeah. And this was one of the main scriptures I remember back in the day going, well, I'm a good person. I Catholic. I go to Catholic. This one really came to me, and that's Romans 3:23-25. For all have sinned and fall short of the glory of God and are justified by His grace as a gift through the redemption that is in Christ Jesus, whom God put forward as a propitiation by His blood to be received by faith. All have sinned.
Yep.
And I met with a friend the other night, Saturday night. So his brother is texting me some certain things, and I've shared some texts with you guys here. And Michelle looks at me a week or so ago, and it was like late at night, who are you texting? And I said, I'm texting so-and-so's brother. And that was one of my things that I told him in the text was that, dude, it's not about the religion that we grew up with. It's about relationship. And I said, all you got to do is just take that step. And he's so hung up on all the things that have brought him down. And Randy says, I think I feel bad because I think the next call I'm going to get is that he ended his life. And he doesn't text his brother, but he's texting me. And I'm like, because Randy, he's searching. All right. He's really searching. It's that message of all have sinned. And that's what I told Randy. I said, it was funny because Saturday night I said the same thing. And then Sunday, you know, Mark preached about it. But I said, we all have sinned, Randy. And I said the difference between what you have now confessed with your wife is that He is your Lord and Savior. There's a difference. You've stepped over into that relationship now. It's not about religion anymore. And I think that's what Mark was trying to get to with referencing the 10 Commandments and the law and going, Christ elevated. Because he knew that when they looked at it going, man, this is what the law says, but Jesus said this, so there's no way we can do that. There's no way. Take the plank out of your eye. You know, it's like, we can't do it.
Nope. And the law should slap us in the face like we're looking in a mirror and going, oh.
And that's why the gospel's good news.
And that's why the gospel's such amazing news.
It's like, man, what a relief. I don't have to keep all those laws that I couldn't keep anyway.
Yeah. It's like, I got to admit, man, I read Romans 1 and I get a little uneasy, but I'm not uneasy with my salvation because I know who I am. But I start reflecting back a little bit going, oh, man, that was bad form. Oh, that, I hurt this person, whatever. Yeah, and I pray that all those things have come together for the greater good. But you go through that first chapter or two, and then Paul's screaming and not screaming. Well, he might be screaming. He's writing. How many times when you're typing a note are you screaming when you type it?
And then you got to look before you hit send.
Before you hit send,
you got to look
How
at
many
it.
exclamation points? Is it all in caps?
Caps.
I wonder how many times Paul went to a courier. Take this to Corinth. Oh, wait a minute. Let me double check it real quick.
I don't know. I don't think Paul did. I think Paul was pretty much like, "No, I got this one spot on.
Yeah,
you
man.
guys are idiots." Like,
Neither Jew nor Gentile. I had a conversation, and I didn't know whether to go here or not, or set up a separate podcast on it. But we had this National Day of Prayer, and I'm paying attention closely to what's going on in Israel, Iran, the surrounding countries, all the terrorist groups and everything else. And you see all this prophecy coming around, and we always talk about, the Jews are the chosen ones, right? But they still have to follow Christ to go to heaven.
Yeah.
There's no out.
Right.
There's no out at all. And I support Israel. It's where Jesus walked, and Jesus was a Jew. And Paul tries to say, guys, this ain't just for you anymore. It's for everybody, and the only way is through Christ.
Right.
It ain't about the 613 or the sacrifices or the temple or any of that. You're Jewish. You've been warned through prophecy that Christ was coming, and it was told to you the glorious hope throughout the prophets, and he came. When are you going to bone up? When are you going to get up there and say Jesus is the only way?
Right.
And Paul really goes into that in his letters. It ain't no more about Jews and Gentiles, man. It is just Jesus.
Jesus.
And what I just said is going to offend a lot of people, but they got to do it. They got to make a decision.
well, if you've ever met like somebody that's highly religious, they always seem miserable.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Not at
Just
peace.
miserable.
Yeah. Not at peace because they got
What's that term? So heavenly minded, no earthly good.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I know that's going to piss a lot of people off. I just said that religious people are miserable, but it is.
I see it too. I mean, I see people. We all have our moments.
Yeah.
And I have my moments of misery, but there's just some that are so caught up in just the religiosity and the standards set that they gotta come through with that, or they're going to be placed in a purgatory or whatever it is. Where's the peace in that?
One word that one group picked out to create purgatory.
Right. But
One of the other things he said is justification. I am acquitted in court. Mm-hmm. Did you guys see Molly's Game?
I did. Yeah, that's a good one.
Have you seen the courtroom scene where the judge, and I love Graham Greene because he was in Dances with Wolves. He was was the chief. Anyway, he's the judge, and what he says to her is so scriptural that I was watching it going, that's amazing. That what he just said, and that's the exact same thing. We're going to stand before the judge, and he's going to go, okay, you're acquitted, but why am I acquitted? Because all sin, death, hell, and the grave is put on my son at the cross, and that's where the price was paid. So you're acquitted. And I can't, when you see people in real life, or they're standing before the judge, and he said, this court finds you not guilty, it's like, amazing.
That's exactly what I picture my entrance into heaven being.
Exactly.
It's a courtroom. And I just imagine like Jesus being like, hi, I'm Jesus. I'll be representing you today. That's the picture I have in my
Pro bono.
mind.
Yeah.
Pro bono, baby.
Yeah, that's what I picture is like him just walking up to the stand and being like, God, I've got this one.
And you know what?
know?
That visual would probably strike a chord with a lot of people if that was in a movie or something where it would make people think. Like that justification and according to ancient Israel was the blood that was shed to make yourself right, to be atoned. Mm-hmm. And I don't feel like so many of us even really dive down and think that deep about what Jesus's blood really represented. And we talked about that at church yesterday a little bit, but yeah. So you're right. The blood, the most powerful event in the history of the world, meant something to God in a legal standard.
Why doesn't the light bulb go off for people? What is it that is it because and I've said this before, my Jewish friends are the hardest people to tell about Jesus. It's like, it's so frustrating. And even Catholics too. It's like, do you guys realize that it's not about the church and the mass and the works and all this? Why is it that people are so hard to have that light bulb moment?
I think people are like lemons, or lemmings, whatever.
Lemons.
Lemmings, yeah.
Both, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they just follow, right? And it's easier to follow. It's easier to just do what you're told,
We go and we listen, as far as your lemmings comment, and we don't have to invest anything, okay? We can raise hell all week and then go to church, and that's our justification,
Right.
okay? So there's no investment on our part.
Yeah.
But when you accept Christ as your Lord and Savior, you have to do something. You confess with your mouth that Jesus is Lord, and you believe in your heart that God raised him from the dead. But as certain people in certain religions, they don't have to invest anything. And that's that whole term of, I'm good enough.
Right.
I don't have to invest anything. There's no proof that I'm not good. But I'm justifying that I'm good enough, so that's what's going to make me go to heaven.
It's crazy that people would rather check boxes, like with a religion. It's like, I check this box, I check that box, and then I'm good, even though there's no peace in that. There's no life in it, as opposed to a relationship, which, you have a relationship with God. You have to listen. You have to engage. Like you said, you have to invest something. But just checking off boxes and then going back to your regular way of life the rest of the week is a lot easier.
Yeah.
And I think our flesh, our sinful nature and our flesh goes for that. And it's like, okay, I'll do that, even though it sucks.
Well, it's almost like that little, serotonin spike you get, right? Because it's like, okay, well, I did something bad, then you do it, and all of a sudden you feel good again because I went to church, I checked the box, I'm good this week, or, I donated enough money, I should be good,
Right.
That's not it, right?
Right.
I mean, and I think the other thing is people, they weight sin, right? They put a weight to it, and it's like, well, I didn't murder anybody, so I'm obviously better than Dahmer. Sorry, dude, you're not, right? You are not better than Jeffrey Dahmer. Anybody listening to this that hasn't accepted Jesus Christ, you're going to the same spot, and Dahmer might be in heaven. Supposedly he accepted Christ at some point, and people don't like to hear that either.
No. Yeah.
Sorry, man. And I was at the store yesterday at the Target, and this woman walked in, and she was beautiful, and she was showing it off. Guys, every one of you would have made the same mistake.
The first look is you're responsible for the second look.
Second, yeah.
And
Second.
And what's funny is I looked, I was like, wow, and then I turned away.
Yeah.
I was like, nope. It's like, if I look again, I'm going to have that, but that's the Holy Spirit working inside of me that the person that hasn't accepted Jesus doesn't know, right? And I feel bad for them because they rely on religion to course correct themselves.
Right.
Larry David did a show on HBO years ago. He was a producer. It's called The Mind of the Married Man. I'm not sure if y'all ever saw it. There's like 2 seasons of it. It had that stupid, dry humor, Seinfeld-ish Larry David way. But it's about this guy and his 3 or 4 buddies, and they're having these conversations, about men and other people and women and all these. And then they came to an agreement. They had a 3-second rule. When that person walked by you at Target, and you have 3 seconds to acknowledge God made her perfect and turn around and walk away.
And this was coming from Larry David.
Larry David. It was a scene in that, and I just cracked up. But if I'm ever caught off guard like that in a store or out in public, I think of that show.
3-second rule.
The 3-second rule. Done. Get out. Get behind me. Move on. So, but you're right. It is coming at you. We talked about some things before we got together about some people we know and things that are kind of issues along those fronts, and it's like, man, it's so easy to fall into that kind of stuff. But if I see that something like a scenario you did, does our mind go to, man, she looks hot, or does our mind go to, I'm going to pray for her, and I need to look at who I am in Christ right now, because this feeling I have inside of me is not that,
And that's an awesome testimony that the Holy Spirit has changed you in that way, because I know 20 years ago, all of us would have kept looking.
Yep.
Oh, I would have followed her around Target. I'm telling you. I mean, there's no doubt about it.
Just-
I mean,
Well, you're being honest, bro.
Just ordinary dude.
Seriously.
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, there's always that struggle between the flesh and the spirit.
And there's not a lot of discretion anymore with what women are wearing. I mean,
Boy.
Well, that's kind of what I was getting at. She knew it.
I don't get the whole cleavage thing because that bothers me more than anything else. Can you imagine if I wore a pair of shorts with both boys hanging out of the right and the left side, walking around Target like that?
But they're not nearly as pretty.
No, you're right.
Is that male cleavage? Is that the equivalent?
Oh, we are going. We need to put a bow on this one.
But I'm serious. I don't get it. It's like, and I'm not
Well,
in.
obviously, I can't come to your pool. I won't be allowed to wear my Speedo.
But I don't get it really. It's like, come on, let's have some discretion. Seriously, you know, you walk out in public like that because men are visual beings.
Right.
We are.
Right.
You know, I said it before. We are like light switches. Women are like irons. They have to be turned on and warm up. Man, you hit the light switch. We're there. So
That's
It's true.
That's a good
It is.
analogy. That's
Yeah.
a good analogy.
So-
Yeah. Well, another week starts. We continue on in our journey to help men just understand who we are a little bit more each week. Sometimes we're a little crazy. Sometimes we're a little crude. Sometimes it's on the money, and sometimes it's not. We
because he's thinking about me walking around Target.
yeah,
with
that's
my shorts
awful.
on.
That's the deal. But well, we
I
appreciate.
did get a visual there.
I
I'm
know
not
you
going
did.
to lie.
Dude,
where do I go, Brad?
the mid 80s were bad like that, as far as guys wearing
Oh,
shorts
yeah.
that were too small and too tight. and
Oh,
everything.
yeah.
I remember
Barely remember the mid 80s.
Yeah, you don't.
when we went to our church youth camp, your shorts had to be no higher than 6 inches above the knee, and we thought that was outrageous. We're like, what? Where are we going to find shorts?
That
like
was the style. You couldn't buy them.
yeah. And now that's the norm.
Yeah, your shorts hang below your knees now with a lot of guys. All right, we're going there. Hey, click on us, like us, share us, follow us. If you'd love to join in and help us out with our ministry, just click on the donation link on our website, impactministries.org. That's spelled MPACT ministries.org. We got 3 big events. I got 2 of them in front of us. One's the Tim Tebow event. It's about a month and a half away. And then the second one in Gainesville, Florida, University of Florida's O'Connell Center, Tim Tebow and Zach Williams coming together for a college experience like no other. And we're getting to work on that right now, and it's going to be an amazing time on September the 5th. Tickets are on sale now for those events. And then lastly, the artwork's not printed out yet, but we're going to be a part of 10th Avenue North's reunion tour. They're coming back, and they're going to be touring a couple of new faces, Mike Donahue and the gang, and great music, very grace-driven group of guys, and at the King Center here in Melbourne. Tickets went on sale Friday, and we already got a boatload of people in there.
Excellent.
So
Nice.
it'll be a lot of fun.
Very cool.
So check us out on Insta, Facebook. I've been playing on TikTok a little, boys.
Uh-oh. China's got your
China's
information.
fault.
I know.
They're going to turn your TV on and off.
I know.
I feel like China might be safer than the chemtrails.
The
Dude,
chemtrails,
we're screwed either way.
That's right.
Geoengineering.
geoengineering.
Supposed to be helping us, right?
Yeah.
Reduce the sun's rays or something.
Breathe in those vapors.
No, it's not helping us.
The aluminum.
Reducing
I
farm
think
yield.
Pfizer's behind it.
We just lost them as a corporate sponsor.
There you go.
So
They were close to signing up too.
yeah. With that said, we'll catch you guys on the flip side next week. Thanks so much for clicking in and joining us. Shoot us a comment. Shoot us a note on the email on our website. We'd love to hear from you. Talk about what you've overcome as a man in today's world through Christ. With that said, I'm Trey.
I'm Michael.
Now, Brad.
I'm Jeremy.
We are the
Cussin Christian.
Christians.
How do you get rid of that? Surgery.
Oh, come on, man. I always
Facelift.
play with mine.
Yeah, dude. Good
Donna gets
facelift.
on me. She's
Facelift.
I know why he's playing with his.
All right.
It's like force.
And scene.